Story 1. This happened to me a few years ago, after a late night at my flat. A friend and I had been watching movies, and I offered to drive her home. The drive back to my place should have been simple, a straight shot I'd done 100 times. But that night, roadworks had closed almost every route. I must have circled the same roundabout 10 times, feeling more frustrated and tired by the minute. Finally, I took an exit I knew would eventually connect back to my town. It meant driving through a rural, isolated area. My phone lost all signal almost immediately. A dark, empty country road at night, seen from a car windshield. I'd grown up near this area and had driven through it during the day. It didn't usually bother me, but these particular woods had a bad reputation. What started as a spot for drug deals had turned into something worse in recent years, a series of violent, unsolved attacks. They weren't the kind of woods you'd ever want to stop near, especially not after dark. It was past 2 in the morning. I was driving slowly, unsure of the upcoming turns. The road was narrow, with dense woods pressing in on both sides. That's when I heard it, a loud clang against the side of my car. It wasn't the sound of me hitting something. It was the sound of something hitting me. A rearview mirror showing a dark, empty road behind the car. I pulled over right away, my heart thumping. I debated getting out to check the damage, but it was 2 a.m., I was alone, and I was parked right next to those woods. I decided to stay in the car. I adjusted my side mirror using the faint orange glow of a streetlight I'd stopped under to see. There, a few feet behind my car in the middle of the road, was a screwdriver. I remember thinking I should take a picture for insurance. But then I saw movement on the other side of the road. The streetlights on the opposite side cast a weak yellow light a few feet into the tree line. And there, just inside that pool of light, was a man. He had his back completely turned to me. He was of average height, wearing a black leather jacket and dark jeans. His skin was pale, and his hair was a reddish color. He stood perfectly upright, hands at his sides, slowly clenching and unclenching his fists. A still image of a figure with its back turned, barely visible at the edge of woods. He didn't move. He didn't turn. His head was positioned as if he was staring straight ahead into the absolute blackness of the woods. There were no other cars, no sounds, just me, him, and the screwdriver lying in the road behind me. The complete wrongness of it froze me for a second. Why was he there? Why was he just standing like that? And the screwdriver, before the thought could fully form, before he could decide to turn around, I shoved the car into drive and sped off. I didn't look back. I drove straight home, my side mirrors still tilted from when I'd tried to see the damage. A close-up of a car's tire, slightly deflated. The next morning, I found a fresh scratch along the passenger side door, and that tire was slowly going flat. But that wasn't what stayed with me. What I remember is the stillness of his posture, the deliberate way he kept his back to me in those lonely woods. I've never been able to rationalize it. I just know that if I had gotten out of my car that night to check that screwdriver, he wouldn't have had his back to me for long. And I don't like to think about what might have happened next. Story 2. This happened to me in Berlin in the spring of 2022. It was the first night of a trip with 2 of my friends, and I still think about it often. We were staying at a hostel near Hermannplatz. The war in Ukraine had just begun, and the city was full of new arrivals. That detail becomes important later. A dim hostel room with 2 bunk beds, a window open to a city night. Our room was on the 5th floor. It was meant for 4 people. When we checked in, it was empty, and we assumed we'd have it to ourselves. We went out, came back late, and the room was still empty. We thought we'd gotten lucky. I remember the window. It opened all the way, with no safety lock. One of the bunk beds was right next to it. There was a small desk and a chair directly in front of the open pane. Around 1 in the morning, the door opened. A man walked in. He was from Kharkiv. He spoke English, but he was immediately off. Nervous, talking fast. We chalked it up to travel stress or exhaustion. My friends eventually fell asleep, but I stayed up, making polite conversation. He was sitting in that chair by the window. A man's silhouette sitting in a chair, backlit by city lights. Around 3 a.m., I finally said we had an early start and needed to sleep. He agreed. I turned off the lights and got into my bunk. He went into the bathroom. A few minutes later, I heard a soft knocking, then a louder bang. I got up and saw the bathroom door was slightly ajar. He was on the floor, next to his toiletry bag. He told me to leave him alone. I went back to bed, but now I was fully awake and anxious. He came out and started exercising, stretching, then push-ups. Then he began sprinting in circles around our small room. Then he ran out into the hallway, and I could hear his footsteps pounding up and down the corridor. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling. A dark room, view from a top bunk of an empty chair by the window. He came back in, said he was hot, and opened the window wide. It was April. It wasn't warm. Then I saw him take a running start from the door. One step on the chair, a second on the desk, and he was outside. He was standing on the 5th floor ledge, holding the window frame with both hands. I didn't scream. I was terrified that if I startled him, he'd fall. I slowly walked over, and as calmly as I could, told him to get down. He said, just as calmly, that he had it under control. I reached out and he said, "If you touch me, I will fall." I stepped back and kept talking. Somehow he climbed back in. I immediately closed the window. I told him how dangerous that was. He apologized. I didn't sleep. A few minutes later, he opened the window and did it again. This time I shouted. My friends woke up. Our female friend, who had a direct view from her bed, was frozen in silence. My other friend helped me talk him down. We spoke in our own language, deciding to tell reception. But he apologized again, said he wouldn't do it. He said he was going through a lot. We gave him one more chance. A hand gripping a window frame from the outside. He went back to the window. He said he did it for the adrenaline. That was it. My friends slipped out to get help while I stayed. We were told to come downstairs. The police were called. The receptionist gave us beers. The police went up, found him asleep, and almost left. We had to show them the photos and short videos I'd taken on my phone. Then they took it seriously. They took our statements, woke him, and led him away. We thought it was over. The next morning, I realized I'd left my jacket. I went back to the room alone to get it. I opened the door. He was back. Same guy, same window. This time he was wearing his backpack, and stuffed inside his pack, I could see my flip-flops, the ones I'd left by my bed. A backpack, zipper open, with a pair of flip-flops shoved inside. I didn't say a word. I took my flip-flops and walked straight out. The police had never taken his key. He'd been released and came back for his things. That was the last time we saw him. We finished our trip. I don't remember his name, and I've never looked at an unlocked window the same way since. Story 3. I haven't always made the best decisions. I can be impulsive, and above all, cheap. That tendency put me in a situation a few years ago that I still think about. I was in college, living with roommates in a big city. One Friday evening, my roommate Sarah and our friend Chloe wanted to try a new restaurant that had just opened across town. I was the only one with a car, so I drove. A city street at dusk, buildings close together. Traffic was bad. By the time we got to the restaurant district, the sun was low. Every parking garage was full. I didn't want to pay for some expensive valet, so I turned down side streets. The neighborhoods in this city can change block by block. I found a spot on a quiet older street lined with townhouses. It was free. I joked, "Remember this spot for next time." We locked my car, a 2020 Kia Forte, which is important, and walked the few blocks to the restaurant. A row of aging brick townhouses. The joke was on us. The wait was 3 hours. By the time we finished our meal and stepped back outside, it was completely dark. The bustling crowds were gone. The walk back felt different. The streetlights were few and far between. About a block from my car, a man, clearly on something, started yelling and following us. We sped up and lost him around a corner. We were rattled but relieved. That's when we noticed the bicyclist. A dark, empty residential street. He was a scrawny guy, all in black with a backpack, no helmet. He was standing on his pedals, riding in the road ahead of us. At first, I didn't think much of it. Then I realized he was making a wide circle around us. He'd ride ahead, loop around, and pass us again from the other side. We kept walking, our conversation dying out. The circles got tighter with each pass. He wasn't looking at the road, he was watching us. It felt calculated, like we were being herded. A lone bicycle on a dark path. My car was now in sight, parked under the shadow of a large tree. We were walking faster, a tight group. I had my keys clenched in my hand. My plan was to hit the unlock button and sprint the last 50 feet. I just wanted to get inside the metal box and lock the doors. But then I saw something, a shift in the darkness beside my car, next to the passenger side. There was a shape there, low to the ground. Something, or someone, was crouching next to my door. I froze for a second. Then I moved my thumb on the key fob. I didn't hit unlock. I hit the panic button. A car's headlights flashing suddenly in the dark. The horn blared, the lights flashed, and the shape exploded into motion. A man, at least 6 feet tall and solid, shot up from beside my car. He didn't look at us. He just turned and ran full speed toward the porch of the nearest townhouse. And there was a second man, just as big, waiting for him on the steps. They both stared at us as my car alarm wailed. 2 silhouettes on a dimly lit porch. The bicyclist peeled away down a side alley. We didn't wait. We sprinted. I fumbled with the door. We all piled in, and I tore out of that parking spot like the car was on fire. No one spoke until we were on the main road, surrounded by normal Friday night traffic. A dashboard view of city lights through a windshield. We never knew what they wanted. My car, which was a model famously easy to steal, us, something else. Why was one hiding and the other circling us? I checked my car later. There were no trackers, no notes, nothing. I traded that Kia a year later. The insurance company said it was too high a risk for theft. I still drive, but I never park on quiet, dark streets anymore. I pay for the garage, the well-lit one. And sometimes when I'm walking to my car at night, I still get the feeling that I'm being herded. Dark, empty room. Thanks for listening. If you have your own story you'd like to share, leave it in the comments or send it to me directly. I read every single one. Stay safe.